Hi, welcome back to Redesigned Rose. My name is Jen Rose. Have you seen crocheted blankets, even seen a stitch as beautiful as this and thought, there's no way I can do that, it's way too difficult? Stick around because I'm going to show you just how easy it is. In this tutorial, I'm not only going to walk you through this easy star stitch repeat pattern, I'm also going to walk you through the extra border that I've added on to the entire blanket. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know I'm all about the finished edges because it's all about the details. I'm going to walk you through the type of yarn, how much yarn, the size of my crochet hooks, and exactly how long it took me to make this amazing blanket. As you can see, pretty good size. Okay. If you are ready for a project that you can feel so good about, that you are ready to show off to your friends and family or even give as a gift, these make amazing gifts. Come with me on this journey. All of my videos, they are beginner friendly, even if you've never crocheted before. You don't have to start off with just a simple single crochet pattern. You can start off with something like this because I'm gonna break it all down for you and make it as easy as possible. If you are liking these videos and you do appreciate the time, all I ask is that you do take that simple moment, take that simple step to just subscribe, like, comment, share. All of those things are really helping this little channel grow and get off of its feet so that I can bring more content out to others who would love to learn how to make these beautiful blankets, as well as all of the other DIY projects. If you do hit the bell, that is going to alert you every time I do upload a new tutorial, so you will be able to be one of the first to see it and you won't want to miss. Thanks for joining me today to learn how to do this beautiful star stitch pattern. Today's tutorial will be for a blanket. However, this star stitch can be used for any type of project, whether it's going to be a headband, a hat, a scarf, a blanket, a dish towel, you name it. But I will be doing a blanket tutorial today. And for this, I did choose the Premier Basic Chunky Yarn, and this is made by Premier Yarns. It is a number 5 bulky. I do prefer this size because it does make this a little bit more pronounced, the pattern, to almost have more of a 3D look, if you will, but it gives more dimension and makes it a little extra squishy, which is always fun. This is a 100% acrylic yarn, which makes it machine washable and dryable, mandatory in my house. And today's color that I chose is in the color linen, nice neutral color. I will also be using a number 8 crochet hook, and I'll be using this not only for the blanket pattern itself, but also for the border that we will do at the end. Go ahead and open my skein of yarn, and what you'll want to do is find the piece that they've got. Usually it's stuck down in one of these ends here. It looks like it's stuck down right in there, and there it is. Sometimes they're tucked right here on the side. Sometimes, believe it or not, they can be a little challenging to find. This one was easy today. And this pattern is worked in multiples of 2 plus 3. So for the blanket that I made, I did chain on 123 chains. For this first part of the tutorial, I'm going to work on a small swatch with you until I have given you guys enough rows to be able to catch on to the pattern, and then we're actually going to finish the blanket that I've started together. I'm going to go ahead and work up a small swatch of 13 stitches. Remember, I'm going to work in multiples of 2 to get to the 10, and then I'm going to add 3 for the 13. And first thing we're going to do is create our slip knot. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I just like to throw my yarn over my hand, throw it over again until it crosses in the back. And you're just going to take this tail portion here, push that through, hang on to that little loop there, remove your hand, grab the tail and the working yarn and tighten that up. And then all I'm going to do is take my tail here, tighten my knot until it can fit comfortably around my hook with just a little bit of give there. I do want my hook to move freely, but I don't want it to be too loose or too tight. So just a little bit of give there. And in order to work my chain, I'm simply going to yarn over, grab my yarn, and pull through, and that is my first chain. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Now, if you are not counting while you're stitching, or if you lose your count, there's a couple of ways that you can count your stitches. This here is the front of the chain, and you can count each one of your stitches by counting these V shapes here. Okay, take this out here. Sometimes it's easier to point with the hook here. So this V is a stitch. This loop that's around the hook does not count as a stitch. So this would be the first stitch from the hook. Okay, so stitch 1, 2, see if I can hold this out here. So stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. You can count all the way to this last V here. Okay, another way to count your stitches is to turn your chain sideways, and these top bumps here, here's the first one from where the hook is, around this loop around your hook. This would be the first one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. The other thing that you can do is the back leg of the chain here. You can also count these back humps that are in the middle. And this is what I usually work into on most of my patterns in order to create a finished edge on the edge of my project. But for today's project, I'm not going to be doing that because we're going to be creating a beautiful border around the blanket anyway. So I'm not going to have to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and be working into the top loop of the chain here. All right, so a couple of ways to count your stitches. Just want to be sure if you're going to be working up the full blanket pattern, you're going to want to have 123 chains. If you're going to work up a small sample like mine, I would recommend just working up the same amount that I've got here so you can follow along in the tutorial easily. And so again, that is 13 chains. All right, and so to start our first row of star stitches, we want to make sure that we have our hook on the right and our tail on the left. As for right-handed folks, we do work from right to left down our chain. And what we're going to do is go into, now remember I was saying this is the first chain from our hook. We're going to go into the second chain from our hook. Okay, so just insert the hook, grab your yarn, and pull up a loop. We're going to keep those guys on there, and we're going to go down and do this 4 more times through each chain. We're going to keep our loops on our hook. Next chain, go through and pull up a loop. Next chain, and this last one. So what you'll end up with is 6 loops on your hook. And that's going to be important to remember because throughout the entire pattern, you're going to finish off every star once you have 6 loops on your hook. We've gone through 5 chains, and that creates the 6 loops. So just remember the number 6 here. And once you do, we're just going to yarn over, And then what we're going to end up doing is pulling that yarn through all of those loops. And as you can already see that magic creating, we've got a portion of our star created. Isn't that awesome? Yarn over and chain 1. Okay. Now these stars, the actual stars themselves, will not be completed until we end up going down our next row. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. So we're creating a portion of our star, the biggest portion of our star, on this row. So let's start our second star. And what we're going to do is go in through the eye of the star here and pull up a loop. And remember, we're just going to be keeping these loops on our hook until we get to 6. Then what you want to do, so you're going to go in through your eye, and then each one of these loops or legs of the star, I call it a leg, this last leg is where we want to go in for our next loop. So just insert through there, pull up a loop, and then this here is the base of that star. Okay, so what we've done is we've gone from the top of our star here and we've climbed down back to our chain. Okay, this is such a small area right this second. Hopefully my fingers aren't covering up too much of what I want you to see, but as we work up more, you'll be able to see that a little bit better. So again, we're just kind of doing a, maybe if I lay it down here, I'm just kind of doing a diagonal where we're kind of climbing back down to our chain. We've got 4 loops, and now what we need to do is go through the next 2 chains to get 6 loops on our hook. Okay, so just super easy. There's another one and another one. There's our 6 loops. We will yarn over and pull through all of our loops. Yarn over and chain 1. So we've now started 2 stars. Okay, same thing. I'm going to go back through the eye, through this, here's that star right here, through this last leg. Go ahead and insert through there. And then we have the base chain right here. Go in through there, or base of the star, excuse me. And then we're going to go through 2 more of the chains. So we've got 6 loops on our hook. So we'll yarn over and pull through each of those, yarn over and chain 1. So now you can see 3 stars. All right. Next one here, again through the eye, through that last leg, the base, and then 2 more chains. Now, whether you're working up a small swatch like me or you're doing the full blanket pattern, you're going to want to continue to do this all the way to the end of your chain. And when you get to the end, you're going to find that you've only got 1 more chain down here, so you're going to end up with a partial star at the end. And I'll show you what that means. So we chain 1 here, and then we'll go through the eye, through that last leg, through the base, and now for those other stars and for all of your other stars, we originally had 2 more chains to go through, and it's okay. You're going to end up with 1 more, so you'll only end up with 5 loops on your hook. Okay, can't go any further, and that's all right. It's just going to create a partial star at the very end. Don't lose your hook. And then chain 1. Okay, so it still creates a star. It's just missing a leg. That's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Okay, so now to begin our next row, the next row is going to be some half double crochets inside each one of the eyes of each of these stars, okay? And that will close up the full shape. And so what we'll do is go ahead and turn our work. And I even think the back looks so pretty. It looks just, again, so intricate. So here is the first eye of that partial star that we created. Now we're only gonna work 1/2 double crochet into that. And so to do that, we're gonna yarn over, go through that eye, and pull up a loop. So you should have these 3 little loops on your hook, yarn over, and you're gonna pull through all of those. And my hook is catching on to something inside there. There we go. Okay, and that is a 1/2 double crochet. And as we move forward, you can kind of see even from the back how it's completing the rest of that star shape all the way up. Okay, we're gonna go to this next eye here, and we're gonna work 2 1/2 double crochets into each one of these eyes. It's just going to be this first one here that we do 1 1/2 double crochet. And then we'll end up doing a 1/2 double crochet in the very end, just 1. Okay, so this eye here, we're gonna do 2 1/2 double crochets. There's the first one. Yarn over, go into that same eye. There's the second one. Yarn over, let's go to the next eye here. There's the first 1/2 double crochet into that eye, and we're gonna go in the same one and do the second 1/2 double crochet. The next eye here, here's our first 1/2 double crochet, yarn over, and our second 1/2 double crochet. And this is the last eye in our row. Work 2 1/2 double crochets in there. And then to close up our end, this very first leg of our star that we created, we're gonna do 1 1/2 double crochet into that. So how pretty is that we've just created? So you'll be able to count your stars. Okay, this here is our border. Star 1, 2, 3, 4.5 stars. Sounds like a pretty good hotel to me, right? I think I'm ready for vacation. All right, so turn this back over because there's one step that we're going to do before we turn our work. So we've just done our 1/2 double crochets, and then what we're gonna do is go ahead and chain 3. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll turn our work. And now it's time to start our next row of stars. And that 1/2 double crochet row also gives a nice little border in between each of our star rows. Almost looks like a little chair rail, if you will. So it's very nice and easy to identify where our stitches go. So to start the next row, what we're gonna do is, here's our first chain from our hook. We're gonna go into the second chain, just like we did on the very first row, okay? We're gonna repeat what we've done here and here for the rest of our project. So we're gonna go into that second chain, pull up a loop, the third chain, pull up a loop. Now what you wanna make sure you're doing, though, the only difference is make sure you're going through both the front and the back of your stitch, okay? You don't wanna just go through here, although that would create something pretty. But for this pattern, we'll go all the way through, pull up your loop. There's 4, there's 5, and 6. And then we will yarn over, pull through all of those loops. And you can see it's creating this cute little border around, which again is all gonna get covered up. And that's why the border doesn't match over here. It's all right. So we've got a whole border that we're going to do all the way around all sides of the blanket. But you can see our stars, they will stack evenly right on top of each other. All right, we'll finish this one off with a chain 1. And then let's do the next star through the eye, through the base leg, or the last leg, the base, and then 2 chains. I've got 6 loops, yarn over, and pull through all, chain 1. Now I don't want you to, if this is new to you, I don't want you to worry about speed right now. The best thing to do is just practice this stitch until it becomes very easy. And it shouldn't take long because this is all about repetition, which is so nice because it becomes very relaxing, almost even therapeutic. There will be a point where you won't have to necessarily count your loops anymore. Part of you can go on autopilot a little bit, tune out, listen to an audiobook, watch a movie, just sit outside if the weather permits. Now remember, we're on this very last stitch here, so we're only going to end up with 5 loops on our hook, and then we will yarn over, pull through all of those, and chain 1. So once again, I know it's a tiny little swatch. I probably should have done one a little bit bigger, but hopefully you'll be able to still grasp the pattern. All right, and then what we'll do once we've chained 1, we'll go ahead, turn our work, and we're gonna do our half double crochet row. And we're gonna go ahead and do that into the very first eye right here on the edge of that partial star. And we just do 1 half double crochet into that one. And then we grab the next eye here and we're gonna work 2 half double crochets into that. So here is the first one and the second one into that same stitch. Then we go over here to the next star. Oops, yarn over first. And there is the first one. And there is the second one. And go to the next eye. I'm going to do the first half double crochet and the second one. And then we'll go into this last eye here and 2 more half double crochets. And then this very last, or very first leg of that star, just 1 half double crochet. And as you can see, we're just creating these nice rows. And again, this will create the border for the next row of stars to stack on top of. And so you should have the border. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half stars. Okay. And that is the entire project. I am going to switch over to the blanket so that I can go ahead and work up a few more rows with you. I do have a little bit more to go before we start the border together. All right, so I am back to my actual blanket, and this is my 69th row in which I am finishing off my stars with my half double crochet row. And I've left this down and I'm picking it back up, and I want to show you just how easy this is to do so. Obviously we don't sit down and work up an entire blanket in one sitting, at least not one like this, but I can see that in the eye of this star right here, I do have my 2 half double crochets. So in order to pick this back up and continue, I'm just going to insert my hook And I know now that I need to go to the next eye and do my 2 half double crochets. And I'm doing that all the way to the end of the row. So I have finished this skein of yarn, and I'm gonna go ahead and add on a new skein. And in order to do that, I am simply going to take a new skein of yarn and my existing yarn, and I'm going to tie a knot, and I'm going to tie that fairly tight. I'm going to pull in both directions here, and then I usually like to go one more because that knot's fairly small. I think it can handle one more. Okay, then what I'm going to do is go ahead and continue my half double crochets, and it might get a little thick in here, but that's okay, we can handle it. I'm gonna yarn over and do one more in here, and that's gonna hold that in place. And then what I'll do is end up taking a pair of scissors here and just snipping off the tails. And now where I have joined that yarn, even though you can see the tails wrapped around this stitch right here, it looks a little thicker, there is no way in the grand scheme of things that anybody is going to know that that is there. And by weaving the tails into that one stitch, it'll just give it a little bit of extra security. But as tight as I tied that knot, I don't expect that thing to go anywhere. And as I'm working through my row here, I'm simply just going to keep sliding my work over. I do prefer to crochet on my lap when it comes to blankets. I find it to be a lot easier, and in the winter months, I do enjoy that as I work them up, it becomes warmer. So I get to almost enjoy the blanket as I'm working it up. But working on a table is fine. Working just on your lap is fine. You're gonna find out what works better for you, and that is the right way. Don't let anybody tell you different. They say you have to work it up on a table, you have to work it up on this way. No, just like holding your hook, there's a couple of different ways people hold it. One, there's folks that like to hold it a little bit like me with the knife method, almost like you're holding a butter knife. And there's other people who like to hold it almost like a fork. Okay, and they will go ahead and work it just like this. This doesn't feel very natural to me. I feel like I have to twist my wrist a little too much. So I prefer being on top of the hook. But again, it's whatever works easier for you. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's the right way. And that's the way that you should do it. All right, I'm at the end of this 69th row here. And I'm just gonna work my last half double crochet into this last stitch. And then I'm going to chain 3 and turn all of this amazing work over. As I do get a little bit faster at the stars here, I am just kind of moving, instead of pulling this up and pulling up a loop on each one like I was showing you in the tutorial and doing this number. I'm only doing it like that just to show you exactly what you're doing. But as you get a little faster, I'm simply just moving my hook back and forth at this point, just like that, until I have all of my loops on my hook, and then I'm pulling up. Because this will be faster once you're comfortable with it. So it does make you move down your rows a bit faster. That's just a little tip for my beginners for a little later. I did time myself a few times on how long it took me to do one row of the stars and one row of the half double crochets to complete them. And it seemed to average about 20 minutes. So to complete this entire section was about 20 minutes. Now, again, I wasn't in any hurry. A couple of times I had a few distractions, but just sitting, kind of relaxing. So I am getting started here on my last and final row, and this is my half double crochets into each one of the eyes of the stars. And I'm going to work all the way down this row just as I have been. And just remember, it's 2 half double crochets into each eye, except for that very first one of the partial star on the end and the very last stitch. Otherwise, each one of these eyes gets 2 half double crochets. And I will keep working up all the way to the end. And I am so excited to start the border together. And we can finish off this beautiful, beautiful blanket. And I will see you there at the end. Okay, so I have just worked up my 78th row, which gave me 39 complete star rows. And I'm now going to begin working on the border. Now for the border, I'm going to go ahead and switch yarns. This is made by the same company. It's also a Premier yarn. This one is an anti-pilling, which I absolutely love. It does have a very soft acrylic, but this one is a bit of a smaller weight yarn. It is down to a number 4, but it is the exact same color. And because it is made by the same company, it is, well, if anything, it is as close as it's gonna get. But I am going down to the smaller yarn because I do feel like the border is just going to be absolutely beautiful in the smaller yarn, giving the more detail, if that makes sense. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and grab my new skein here, and I have cut off the remainder of the yarn that I've been working with. What I've done is I've gone into this last stitch to do a half double crochet, but I'm not going to complete it yet. What I'm going to go ahead and do is leave this tail out. I'm going to bring in my new yarn and wrap that over my hook, and I'm going to hang on to the tail of the old yarn that I was using, and I'm going to hang on to the new yarn, and I'm going to go ahead and complete the stitch with the new yarn. And this is a way of doing it without having to create a knot on the side. And then what I'm going to do for the border is I'm going to go around the blanket half double crochet. And of course, when we do that, we're going to chain 1. I'm going to hang on to these tails and turn my work. Then I'm ready to begin this next row. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and weave these tails into my work so that once again, I don't have to create any knots in joining the yarn. So what I'm going to do is, if these tails are not here, what I would normally do is go ahead and yarn over and go into my first stitch. The only thing I'm going to do different is go ahead and move these tails just above where I'm going in for that stitch, so that when I take this yarn and wrap it over and pull through to complete that, it will tie those tails in nice and secure. Same thing into the next stitch. I'm going to keep those tails just right along the top here, And I'm just going to stitch right around them. And this will hold them in nice and tight. They're not going to go anywhere. And you can do this anytime you're going to change, not just a type of yarn, it could be the same yarn. Maybe you're going to change to a different color. Maybe you're not even changing the color or type. Maybe you're just doing a new skein because you've run out. It is good to do this at the end if you can, where you're about to complete a stitch. And then I'm just going to work these half double crochets all the way down. And what's happened is I've gone ahead and worked those tails into my stitches here. There's a little bit sticking out, and what I'll do is I'll take my scissors and come back and trim that up. But I'm going to go ahead and just work half double crochets all the way down. Before I get too far, I'm going to go ahead and take a stitch marker and I'm going to put this through my first stitch here. And what that's going to do is let me know that when I come back around, it was my starting point, and it's going to be important because to create a good corner around the entire blanket, each of the corners, you're going to want to work 3 stitches into that corner stitch here. Actually, it's going to be this one right here, right in here where I've marked. And so it's good to have these stitch markers just to remind you, once you get here, do those 3 stitches in that one. And I'll just work up a few more here, and just these half double crochets, just as we've been doing, to complete each of our star rows. All right, so I'm at the end of my first row of doing the half double crochet for my border. And when I get into this last stitch, this is the first one that we're going to go ahead and work 3 half double crochets into. And we're going to work those into that same stitch. And what you can see is that's going to start to go around the corner here. And what I want to do is go ahead and mark the middle of those 3 stitches with my stitch marker, so that I know when I come back around that this is my final stitch. This is the middle one that I'm adding, and the next one that I'm adding before I head down around the edge here. All right, as I work down the side of the blanket, I don't have a single stitch to work into as I did here across the top. So I've already done as I've done the 3 stitches into this corner stitch, that's going to count as my first. This 3rd stitch is actually going to count as my first. Then I'm going to go into the eye of this partial star. Then I'm going to go into the last leg of that star. And then I'm going to go into the top leg of the next star. And then into the eye, into the last leg, into the first leg, and so forth. I'm going to keep going down all the way to the end of this row. And when I get to the end of the row, I will do the same thing as I did here by putting the 3 stitches into one and marking that corner stitch so I can easily identify when I come back around. And I'll just show you a few more here, and then I will meet you at the end. So I'm coming up on the 3rd corner here, and I'm into, this is my last stitch, so I'm going to put 3 half double crochets, one for my final one for my corner, and then one to start the next row. And again, those are all going into that same stitch so that it can start to make that beautiful corner for us and nothing gets lopsided. And then what I'm gonna do is go ahead and mark that center stitch. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the border around. This was the original foundation chain. We started the blanket, and I'm gonna go ahead and work just as I have been, a half double crochet into each and every stitch. And once again, once I get to the end, I'll mark my corner and finish off this round and get ready to go around again. Okay, so I've gone around the entire blanket twice doing the half double crochet, and I'm now ready to go into this final corner stitch and go ahead and do my 3 half double crochets. And then I will simply do a slip stitch to join those. And that just completed that border. Last step, this will be the last round that I will go around the blanket. This is where it's just like the final decoration on the cake. It's just beautiful. All right, so there is my slip stitch to join. In the next stitch here, I'm gonna go ahead and do a single crochet, and then I'm going to chain 4. And then in that same stitch, I will do a single crochet. And then I will skip the next one. And we will do a single crochet, chain 4, and then in that same stitch, another single crochet. Skip the next one, and this is the pattern all the way around the blanket. And here we are, skip this one, go to the next, chain 4, and then single crochet in the same stitch. And what that will do is just give that pretty little scalloped edge all the way around the blanket. And once I get all the way back around here, I will go ahead and finish off. I'll go ahead and do a few more on camera so that you can get a good idea of what this looks like. And just how easy this is. Now, hopefully that can give you a good idea of just that pretty little added touch